and they still had the big camera stores, and they still taught classes and lessons in photography out of those big camera stores. And so I walked in and I'm like, I'm going to China. I need a camera. And Andrew, you're going to love this. The guy, his name was Drew, sold me my first Nikon. And it was the N80, right? It was a film camera, clearly. And we are still friends. He now, like, when we go to like Imaging USA and all the different trade shows, he works for Canon now, ironically. And so he's a vendor. So he's at all the trade shows still. So we always still get together when we do our, because he was my first camera guy, and we love to tell that story. I loved how I could see something and then create it, right? Like I could see it and I could capture it. I could see it and I could create it. Because like I had a lot of friends in school who were artists, like they could paint and they could draw, and I could do none of that. I could barely even get out a stick figure, you know? Like, so I always joke that I was a frustrated artist in a way because I had no art skill at all. And so when I got that camera in my hand and I realized that I could create art with a camera, I was like, game over. Like, it is the kids that are older when they come in for their sessions and make fun little jokes. I'm not the tallest person in the world, Andrew. Earlier this year, one of the kids I have photographed since he was a baby came in. He was 13. They were coming in for an updated family portrait, and he watched it. He's like, Miss Janine, when'd you get so short? I'm like, I didn't get shorter. You just grew. Like for me, like I love that these kids come into the studio, and every time they get older and they hit that puberty mark, and then they come back. And it's like this little tiny adult is here that I had photographed when they were little babies sitting in little tubs. It warms my heart and just brings me joy. And I would say like those continuation of moments is what I love. And it just brings me joy in what I do. And it's why I continue to want to build those relationships with future clients.
Hi, and welcome to this week's Behind the Lens, a photographer's life. And we've got Janine with us, which I'm really pleased with. I've been wanting to get Janine on for a little while and finally managed to hook up together. So, hi, welcome.
Hey, Andrew, thanks for having me. I know it's always fun trying to coordinate time zone differences.
Yep, certainly. So tell everybody where you are then, because time zones differences. Where are you in the world?
Yeah. So I am in sunny Florida, down in Tampa, Florida. So 5 hours, Eastern time zone in the US. Yeah, it's warm and sunny and very rainy.
Lovely. Nice. Yes.
It's a fun mixture, right? Sun and rain. Because you just get the rain, you don't get the sun.
We don't get the sun the same. No, definitely don't. So, photography. I know it wasn't your first job. How did you get into photography? What started you on that path?
Yeah, so you're right. It was not my first job, not even remotely close, actually. So by training, I'm an engineer. So I went to university for mechanical engineering, and my first job out of college was with Motorola. So us old timers remember Motorola.
Yeah.
But yeah, they at one time were one of the top 5 most recognized brands in the world, right along with Kodak. Kind of funny, right?
Yeah.
So I designed cell phone batteries. So I was in their cellular division and was the project manager and mechanical engineer for the batteries for the cell phones. So if you had a Motorola cell phone between 1997 and 2004, you had one of my batteries on your phone.
Right.
And so that's why I started. So how I got into photography, though, it's very interesting. And you know a lot of engineers / photographers. It's actually a very common left brain, right brain type
the geeky
combination.
side of the techie side. And
it's like that because photography is a very technical art. And so when I was at Motorola looking for a creative outlet, obviously as a kid, I always had a camera in hand, right? But it was like, one of those disc cameras and like the disposable, all those fun things. But when it was like my first year at Motorola, I was sent overseas to China for a month to work in one of our factories to manage the production of one of our batteries. And I knew when I was over there that anybody who got to go on that trip got to go see the Great Wall of China, got to go to the Forbidden City, got to go to the Summer Palace, got to go to Beijing, like all these iconic places. And I was like, I need more than a disc camera to do this,
Right.
right? And I had always loved photography anyway. So in Atlanta, which is where I was living at the time, that's when they still had the big camera stores, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they still had the big camera stores and they still taught classes and lessons in photography out of those big camera stores. And so I walked in and I'm like, I'm going to China. I need a camera.
Okay.
And Andrew, you're going to love this. The guy, his name was Drew, sold me my first Nikon,
Okay.
and it was the N80, right? It was a film camera, clearly. And we are still friends. He now, like, when we go to like Imaging USA and all the different trade shows, he works for Canon now,
Right.
ironically. And so he's a vendor. So he's at all the trade shows still. So we always still get together when we do our, because he was my first camera guy, and we love to
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
that story. But yeah, so I bought my first camera and obviously I wanted to learn how to use it. So I didn't want to just have the camera and then not know how to use it going to China. So I took like 3 classes from that store. It was called Showcase, to learn how to use the camera, to learn and understand lighting and understand composition. And those are the first 3 classes that I took. And I fell in love with photography. And so over the
When you
next few
say
years,
you fell in love, was it the technical or
it was
was
the
it was the
technical.
technical?
It
Right.
was the technical. I loved how I could see something and then create it, right? Like I could see it and I could capture it. I could see it and I could create it. Cause like I had a lot of friends in school who were artists, like they could paint and they could draw, and I could do none of that. I could barely even get out a stick figure, like, so I always joke that I was a frustrated artist in a way because I had no art skill at all. Like, and so when I got that camera in my hand and I realized that I could create art with a camera, I was like, game over. This is awesome. I don't need to paint. Like, you can sit there in front of an easel and take 10
Yeah, 10
hours and
hours.
2 weeks to paint, and I could just click a button.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was the fact that I could use a piece of equipment, which obviously as an engineer, I liked using gadgets and gizmos
Hmm.
and tools, and that I could use a piece of equipment and create a piece of art.
So how long after coming back from China then, I take it, did you last at Motorola before Janine the photographer came about?
So it was a while. And I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you how. So when I came back, I knew I wanted to learn more about photography. So the Atlanta Art Institute, you could take as a working professional, just night classes, right? So I took some more classes in photography, and one of the instructors was a wedding photographer.
Okay.
And so, ironically enough, right? So he's like, you have some really good skill. Would you be interested in helping me on weekends photograph weddings? I'm like, heck yeah, man. That's awesome, right? So I started assisting him, and it was still film. So he photographed with a Hasselblad to do all the wedding formals, and I used the 35 millimeter to do the candids, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I started working with him on weekends and realized that I actually really enjoyed people. And
Yeah.
and so I'm an extrovert. Like, as I get older, I'm a little more introverted because I like my quiet, but in general, I'm an extroverted person, right? So my favorite time at Motorola was lunchtime and coffee breaks, right? Like when I could talk to other people. And that's how I ended up in program management anyways, because I got to manage the teams as opposed to just being stuck behind my computer designing. So I always landed towards the people side. So so I'm like, I have this technical tool and now I can use it and I can actually talk to people
Yeah.
and interact with people. And I fell in love with that. So I started working with him on the weekends doing weddings. And I did that for about 4 years, 3 or 4 years with him. And that's when I started realizing, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be at Motorola anymore.
Were the
I want to
weekends
find a
more
way.
fun than the weekdays then?
Yeah, the weekends
Uh,
were more fun than the weekdays. And it actually was when Motorola started going through that's when Motorola missed the boat on the whole analog digital transition. And they started laying off thousands of people. And I had this light bulb in my head because obviously until like the 90s, right? Like my family, my dad was an entrepreneur, but like all of the rest of my family, like my uncle worked for 3M for 50 years. My other uncle worked for GE for 30 years, right? Like everybody worked for these companies until they died or retired,
Yeah.
right? And so like I
To break
assumed
the
that it would
mold was
be,
a bit of a different thing.
yeah, you know. So when Motorola laid off like 20,000 people, and this, my boss at the time, he was laid off, and I looked at him like, you've worked at Motorola longer than I've been alive at that point, right? Like, I mean, he had worked for Motorola for 30 years. I was what, 24 at the time, and they just laid him off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would I dedicate my life to a company I don't control?
Yeah.
And it was a light, Andrew, was legitimately a light bulb.
Hi. Quick interruption. If you're enjoying peeking behind the lens of photographers' lives here on this channel, you'll realize there's some real golden moments of wisdom. And here's the thing, we don't want to miss those golden moments. So why not subscribe now? Just take a second, you can do it. And then once you've done that, please click that like button like it's the first photo of the day. Done it? Cool. Back to the video. Yeah, tell us, your boss got laid off and you decided that you wanted to work for you, really.
Yeah.
Be in control.
Be in
Yeah.
control. Can you imagine? I had control issues, Andrew. Yeah, so I wanted to be in control of my own destiny and not develop or devote my life and my career to a company that could just like this lay me off. But as you can imagine, you worked for a corporation too at one time, didn't you?
Not really.
Not really.
I worked for a big. I worked in the holiday industry for a brief part of my life, so there were a big multiple.
Okay.
But I've never. That was more. I taught skiing for a little while and went and lived in the
Fun.
Alps and in French Alps. And to get that way of life, you went and worked for a big tour company. So, but that was a fantastic way of taking off the blinkers and understanding about the world for me.
Yeah,
You know,
I could see that.
and
That'd be fun. Wow. Ooh, tough
yeah,
life living in the Swiss Alps.
yes, it was a hard job. It really was.
Hard job, hard job. Um, yeah, so but as you can imagine, so the reason why I asked is the toughest thing was I was obviously paid very well at Motorola. I had incredible insurance. Over here, you know, you have to either have insurance through your company or you buy your own insurance. There is no government insurance, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So it was a hard thing to figure out how am I going to replace this? In fact, over here they call it like the golden handcuffs, right? You don't want to, like, it's almost like an indentured servitude without it being that way, right? Like you're forced to stay because how else can you leave?
yeah.
So it took me about 2 years of working nights and weekends behind the scenes to be able to get to a point where I felt comfortable that I could quit Motorola and sustain a lifestyle close to what I had.
So, what was your first priority then? What when you decided, right, I'm going to change over, I'm going to go and do this and become a photographer? You must have had some priorities that you want, or little goals that you wanted to hit before you started. Did you? Were they there? Did you have, or did you just jump in?
I jumped in. I was young, Andrew.
Yeah,
And it jumped in. Obviously, I wanted to make sure, like, the nice thing, because I had started in weddings, obviously, because that's what I had learned. I wanted to make sure, like, the following year I had at least, because weddings book out in advance.
yeah, yeah.
So I wanted to have like 15 to 20 weddings booked to
For the
feel confident
security.
that I could get
Yeah.
into this rolling swing of things. So
Hmm.
that, I guess, if you were to say that there was a mini goal, that was it. Like, I'm like, when I hit 20 weddings booked and on the calendar, I can quit.
Right. Yeah. And how long then from that to the studio?
So I was in Atlanta for a while, but then it was like 2 years I ran that studio in Atlanta, and I had actually ran it with another photographer. We ran it together, and my family, all I grew up in Florida, right? So
Right.
my family was all down here, and I really started missing home. I hated the cold. I mean, Atlanta's not exactly northern state, but I found it cold. I
Yeah.
hated the winters. I hated not being near the beach. I hated hearing all of my family doing things, and I missed out on it because I wasn't there. And so I looked at my studio partner at the time, and I was like, I really want to move back to Florida. So I sold her my half of the studio, And at the time, I knew I wasn't going to be able to just get up, move, and start a new studio from scratch. Again, right? Have to feed myself and pay
Yeah,
bills.
yeah.
So at the time, and I don't know how long you've been in the industry to know if you remember the name, Art Leather
Yeah, yeah.
was,
I know art
yeah.
leather. Yeah.
So their Florida sales rep position was open.
Right.
So I took it. So I moved to Florida with the nice, cushy job at the time. Art Leather paid their sales reps very well. It's probably
Our
part of the reason why they
yeah,
went out of business.
our
Um,
studio only ever used art leather for 30 years. At
yep,
least 25, 30 years, art leather only, because you could
only.
take them in and out.
Yep. My baby portraits were in Art Leather folios.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Like when I took the job, I was like, these look familiar. And I went to my mom, like, can I see those folios from when I was a baby? And they were in Art Leather folios. My parents' wedding album was an Art Leather wedding album.
Yeah.
So they were like,
They
they
were the
were industry
quality. They were
standard.
really quality stuff.
Yep.
It was the, yeah.
It was quality, and they paid very well. And as a salesperson, when I walked into the job, you didn't have to earn your territory. You were paid for the territory. So I
Oh,
instantly walked into the job of being the rep for the state of Florida, and every account in Florida, I earned 10% commission, whatever they were selling. So it was a great job. And it was in the photography industry. And I got to tell you, Andrew, the years that I worked at Art Leather, I think gave me the foundation for what I needed to be able to run the studio when I started to back up again in Florida, because I got to see, traveling around as their sales rep, I got to see the best of how studios were run and the worst of how studios
yeah.
were run.
Yeah.
And I got to, Art Leather sponsored Mary Fix Taylor and Jimmy Hayes, who I think like you met in Ireland, right? They were sponsored speakers from Art Leather back then. So I spent a lot of time with them. That's how I met them originally. It's before Ronan. Learned how they ran their business. They sponsored Hanson Fong. I spent weeks with Hanson Fong as his assistant when he was teaching classes. So I got a firsthand training in a portrait studio business. So not weddings, which was great because I really didn't want to continue doing weddings.
Why
And
not
so it was
weddings?
fantastic.
Why the studio then? What drew you to a studio rather than weddings? What was that?
So while I loved the weddings, I knew that I never wanted to do them past when I thought it was fun. Right. So like if I'm going to run a business on my own, I'm going to do what I love to do. Working for Art Leather was fantastic. Honestly, if they didn't go out of business, I probably would still do it. I loved it. I loved working with photographers. I loved helping them. I found out I was really good at sales and marketing, and I was
Right?
really good at coming up with ideas when I would meet with my clients that were on how to sell the albums and how to sell the folios and how to sell the frames, and train them to really be able to sell the product so that I would make more money. But I really learned that I had that love, and I was still doing weddings on the side and helping other photographers doing weddings, and I did not like the stress. I did
Right.
not like the stress of a wedding, nor did I like having my life planned out a year ahead of time.
Yeah,
And that was the time I
When I
started.
talked to Claire couple of weeks back, that's one of the things she said. It was like having to even plan the toilet and when you could do things and
Yeah,
everything.
no, it was awful.
Yeah.
And there was one wedding I remember, like, so your whole weekend's wrecked, right? Like you photograph on a Saturday, you're there for 8 hours, you're done. Obviously, you're not doing anything on that Saturday. And Sunday, you're usually tired. Well, then Friday night, I went out with some friends and I didn't feel good afterwards. And I was worried I had food poisoning. And I'm like, oh, shoot. I'm like, well, now I can't even go out on a Friday night because I'm worried I'm going to get food
Yeah.
poisoning.
Yeah.
So, but it was at the same time as when I wanted to start having kids. And I
Right.
was like, my friends in Atlanta who grew up in like second generation wedding photography studios that I had met through the photography organization, their parents missed their whole childhood. I'm like, let me get this straight. You're working for yourself. You're not working for a corporation, and you're still missing your kid's childhood. How does that work? Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want this, because if my daughter has a dance recital on a Saturday, I don't want to say, oops, I can't go. I have a wedding. So I was like, nope, I've got to find a way to run photography as a business and not have it planned a year ahead of time. I
That's the
just didn't
same
want that life.
reason why I started the end of weddings in our studio, because I had the children and they were starting school, And the only time I would have with them was the weekend. And
Right.
I was like, nope. What
Nope.
was the point in having children? They were my
Right.
priority in my life. So weddings just went. And it was a big thing to go that reliability of a year in advance. But yeah, priorities. And you're right. It's
Priorities.
having what's the point in having a business and working for yourself if you can't do the
Why am
things you
I
want?
doing this if I can't be with my kids during those important times? So, yeah. So and I had seen traveling with Art Leather that you could run a successful business without weddings. Prior to that, I didn't think you could. Like in my mind, a photographer was a wedding photographer or worked for National Geographic. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
one of the two. So, when I
I mean, a
saw that
lot
there
of
was plenty of
photographers that we
studios,
know are wedding photographers with a sort of bit of a studio.
right, right,
Worldwide, that tends to be a bit of the thing, isn't it? Wedding
yep,
photographers with a bit of a studio, not a studio photographer.
correct.
So what genre did you get into? What was the? I know it's children and everything, that area. Well, it's not. It's you say it yourself. It's the whole life, isn't it? Really, if you had your way. But what took you to that genre? Mainly the younger ones.
Having Aaron. So I started the studio basically when I was pregnant with her. And so I was like, "Oh, this is fun." Right? Like I liked photographing. I photographed my niece who was born a year before her. And I was like, again, sales and marketing mind. Weddings are easy because it's a need, right? People are
Yeah,
getting married, they need a wedding photographer. Well, when people have babies, they also need a photographer, right? And so people having babies and children want to have them photographed, right? So I was like, this is something I could do because I can
hmm,
market for people having babies. And at the time, you could buy baby lists, right? You can't buy them anymore, but you used to be able to buy all the lists of the babies born in your town.
yeah, yeah.
And you could do a direct mail campaign to them. That's how I launched my business. I did a baby plan. There was a gentleman here called Frank Danino who sold this plan.
Right,
And I started with that. And it was like you did the milestones 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. And they got a 10 by 20 panel at the end. And then you sold them from throughout the session. And it was like, it was so similar, Andrew, to like our direct offers and our registered to wins now. It was, we mailed out a card and it was register to win a baby milestone plan for $49.
right, yeah,
Right. And it's same concepts. Nothing ever changes. It's just the delivery. So that's how I kicked off my business. And it's been 18 years now. And last year, I photographed high school senior sessions of some of those babies I did newborn sessions when I first started.
right. That's fun. That's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
When
And
it's
it's really sentimental. Like I'm a very nostalgic person and I love like you said that I like to go through life and that is my why, right? So my why is I want to go through life with my clients. And I don't want to just photograph them once. I want to photograph all of their milestones, just not their weddings. And so I'll refer that to a friend. But I want to photograph all of the milestones, not just them as babies, but them as toddlers, them as school age kids, turning 10, their milestones when they're teenagers, and then graduating from high school. And now, like the one I've done 3 now that I had done as babies that are high school seniors. So they've been here that whole time with me. And we joke about when they have kids that I'm going to photograph their kids,
yeah,
right? And they'll bring them back. And so it's like this whole circle of life and it comes full circle. I've already done some babies of kids I have photographed as teenagers. So it was a shortened cycle because they didn't come as babies, they came as teenagers. But
right.
it's still pretty cool to photograph someone and now they're having kids and you're photographing their kids and it's just
It's more relaxing, isn't it, with them because
it
you know
is.
them.
You know them.
You've not got that, oh, they're a client. They're not really. They've become an extended family member in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually call them part of my studio family. Like they become family. And you start to care about them as much as you do your family and they care about you too, And I'll tell you what, to be honest with you, at Christmas, we don't even market Christmas to anyone outside our client base. And if someone should happen to find it and book it, to be honest with you, I'm like,
Really?
yeah, I much prefer at Christmas during the holidays photographing the comfort. Like you said, it's a comfort. Like I like being
Yeah.
able to see all of my existing clients at Christmas and, catch up and how's the year been going and this and this and that. And there's just a comfort. The conversation is easy. The photography is easy. We're hugging, we're this. And then when a new client comes in, so like during Christmas, we photograph 15 sessions in a day, right? So if a new client comes in, it's like, hi, I'm Janine. Welcome to the studio. As opposed to, oh my gosh, Andrew, it's been a year, and it's just, it's different. It's different.
So, what do you prefer doing now in your? Because you've got a multifaceted business doing very well. You've got staff and everything. What do you love when you wake up in the morning and you go, I've got to go to work? What is it, the bit that gives you the buzz of going, I love this part of the job?
Marketing.
Is that what it is now?
Yeah, it has. It's funny because it's kind of come full circle. That's like the one, like I've hired out a photographer. I've hired a photographer, not hired out. I hired a photographer on the team, and so she pretty much photographs the majority of the first birthday sessions now. I
Right?
still photograph all the family. It's a little tougher to photograph family than just a single baby. So I pretty much still photograph all the families and the high school seniors because there's a lot more involved with photographing a high school senior. But she does the majority of the babies, and I give her all the 2-year-olds. um, and I do the themed magic sessions. I love still photographing those. I love creating the themes and the magic, and I love taking people
Is
on
that
those
because you're
journeys.
playing with the imagination with the children?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is.
That's fun, isn't it? That
It
side of
is fun.
things.
And it is a lot of fun. You get to play, you get to guide them through a story, and you get to watch them. You get to watch the little magic light bulbs go off in their head,
Yeah,
right? You get to see them imagine, you get to see them play, and I know what it'll turn into.
yeah.
Yeah. But what gets me up in the morning, I love creating new ideas and I love marketing. It truly is my passion. And I like coming up with new ideas. I like coming up with marketing ideas. I like coming up with ad copies and email campaigns and like all of like that is what I don't even
So
find it to be work.
is that going back to the geeky side of the brain, do you think?
Yeah,
That particular side,
it
right?
is. Well, and it's funny because I don't know if I've told you this in any conversations in the past, but originally my dream was not to work for Motorola. I don't think anybody wakes up and says my dream job is to build cell phones, right? I wanted to be an Imagineer. I wanted to work for Disney.
Right.
Like when I went to college as an engineer, my whole thought was that I was going to go work for Disney and be an Imagineer, and I was going to design ride controls and roller coasters and the rides and everything that they do at Disney. And my senior year of college is when Michael Eisner like slashed the Imagineering program.
Okay.
And so mid 90s was a tough year to graduate college in the US. Like the defense budget was cut. So like NASA wasn't hiring anymore. That was my other thing. I was like, ooh, I could do space, and be like, do that. But that was all cut. Defense was cut. Disney cut. Like all the fun things were just gone. So I do think that a lot of stuff has come full circle. Like I like the way we create the experiences here is very Disney like. Disney is my what does Ronan call it, like your brand
Your
that
mantra,
you
you
yeah. And so I always try and mimic Disney and everything that I do from a client experience standpoint. um
can you just
but
explain to people why you're on who Ronan is? Because you've mentioned him a couple of times.
okay.
People out there in the world, I know who he is. Who, who is he to you?
So Ronan is originally he was one of my vendors, right? Like so we bought when Art Leather, this is funny, this is how I met Ronan. I don't know if you even know this. So when Art Leather went under, we were using those flippin' albums for our toddler plans,
Right?
right? Because you couldn't do like a book because you're not going to wait 5 years to make someone a book. So the Slippin' albums was brilliant for a toddler plan. And every time someone turned one, we got them an Art Leather album. We slipped in, they came in for birthday sessions every year and we slipped in their pages. I still think it's the best idea. Like I have still 20 years later and I still search for a good Slippin' album, but no one makes them
I don't make them
anymore.
now.
So I met Ronan at a trade show and I saw his treasure boxes, his folio boxes. And I was like, huh, well, it's not an album, but it's pretty darn close. And I can still get this box and I can still slip in an image as this child grows through their toddler years. And that's how we met. And I told him my idea, and no one had ever done that with him before. He's like, wait a
Right.
minute, it's one session. You're doing one session, right? I'm like, no, 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 no. I want to get it to be able to get like the 30 image box. And then over 5 years, they're adding like 4 images a year. And he totally was like, I don't understand. And so we still have fun about it, right? Because Ronan's still like, you should just sell 1 box per session. And I'm like, but no one's going to have 5 boxes in their house of their toddler. Like they want to have a box that they can, like, I still have that art leather frame of mind. Like I want to flip through as a parent 1 box that tells my whole child's story. So that's how we met. So he owns 3XM, which is a folio box company, but he also started a photography coaching and mentoring program called Difference Maker Revolution. And I'm a mentor for him. So that is kind of who Ronan is. So when we mention him, he is my mentor.
I mean, the 3XM Photo Value in Ireland is, for anyone out there and you wanting stuff, it's a really good company. It's got very good quality. Well, they're beautiful boxes.
They're beautiful.
And I use them in my studio as well because they are beautiful boxes. But yeah. So you've moved on into doing all the children's stuff and doing your studio. I do believe there's a book that you've written.
I did write a book, Andrew.
When did that come about? When did you write your book?
So here, I actually have it over here. I always keep a copy nearby. So I wrote this, don't blink. And so have you heard of Daniel Priestley?
No.
He's a UK author. He wrote the book, Key Person of Influence.
Right.
And he did a training course here in Tampa. And I took the training course, and in that it talks about how if you want to be a key person of influence in your industry, there's ways to go about it, but you have to become an authority on what you do. And there are certain things that create authority, and writing a book is one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So like if you say I'm, Janine, a published author, it carries more weight than I'm a photographer, right? Like published author.
Yes, isn't that strange?
Right?
It's a mind thing. It's not
thing.
reality, but it's a mind thing. But yeah, but it does sound
published
good.
author carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'd always thought it'd be fun to write a book anyways. And so I took this course with him on how to write a book. And so I was in a class with like 10 other people, and they walk you through how to find your topic, how to find your editor, how to find your publisher, how to, and then we actually all wrote our books together. It was an accountability group essentially.
Right.
So we had 12 weeks to write your book. And every day we had to report how many words we wrote, and where we were at. And so it's really interesting because that's the toughest part of writing a book is I have so many other things to do today. I'll just write tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. But when you're in an accountability group and you owe everybody 1,500 words a day, you get up at 5 a.m. and you write for 2 hours before your day starts, and you get your 1,500 words done. So I knew that I wanted to write a book that would give me authority with my clients, that I could give as a gift to them when they became a client of the studio. And that would give me that authority that I understand what it is for your children to grow up, and how as parents, we want to hold on to those memories of them, but we want them to grow, right? It's not like we want them just to stay stagnant, right? And so it's that great juxtaposition
there's a part
of a
the brain
parent
wants to keep them there, and there's another part wants to see them improve,
right? So it's so that's why the book is called Don't Blink, and it's capturing your child's story through portraits, so that the portraits we create and understanding. And see, I saw this for years photographing. I would have a mom of a 2-year-old want to do a session that was really appropriate for a 5-year-old.
Right.
And I would have talked to them like, your child's not 5. Slow down. She'll be 5 soon enough. When she's 5, we'll do that. Right now, we need to do what she does at 2. Don't skip this moment.
And have that as a captured memory.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not perfect at 2. They're little tornadoes. Let's capture that. Capture the wild and crazy of 2. Because trust me, 3 and 4 come fast enough, and you'll get your 3 and your 4-year portraits, right? So that's a little bit of how the book was structured. I really wanted moms to take comfort in this idea that while we go through these times with our children, each stage is precious in and of itself. And stop trying to like we always seem like, even as kids, we always want to fast forward our lives to the next stage. And that's like, oh, if I could just get out of the baby stage, I'll get more sleep. Oh, if I could just get out of the toddler stage, I'll get more peace. If I could just get out of, and then soon enough, Thursday, I'm driving Aaron off to college, and it's like, well, it's over.
Yes, it feels like that, doesn't it?
Right?
But it's not. It's
I
just
know it's
another
not,
chapter.
but you
But
know what I'm
in,
saying.
in
Yeah.
in your heart, it feels like that. Yeah.
Like, yeah. I won't even tell you about my dream that woke me up hyperventilating last night, but that's okay. All these emotions are going through me right now. But I wanted moms to be able to take that comfort. Like, you can capture, and her portraits do bring me comfort. Like, I look around the house, and the wizard portrait I did of her when she was 8 stares at me every time I walk in the door. And I'm like, she's here. And when she was 8, she believed in magic.
Yeah. And it's still there. Yeah.
And it's still there.
And I think a lot of people don't realize how powerful that can be to have on your wall.
On your
And
wall.
it's very difficult to get that out there to the general public, isn't it?
It is. And it's, because just think about that. If I was like half of my clients who don't buy wall portraits, if I had that just on a print, on a digital image, tucked away somewhere in a box or an album, I wouldn't see it every single day. I would not see it every single day. Every single day, I walk through my house and there's portraits of my kids through all of those magical stages. And it brings me peace. And it makes me, for me, now I'm talking about me selfishly as a parent, it does other things for my kids. But for me, because we're talking about me here, it brings, like, I feel surrounded by that everything's, like, I don't know, Andrew, it's a weird feeling, like everything's okay. Things are going the way they're supposed to go. My kids are growing the way they're supposed to grow. But all these stages happened. And I see Erin here. She believed in magic. And I know that she takes a piece of that with her as she goes. And like I did one of Erin and James and Peter Pan, and I had them like flying, and they're looking at each other, and she's looking down at him, and he's looking up at her. And he was like 2 at the time. So we got one shot, and thank goodness it was a good one. But like, I look at that, and like right now, of course, she can't be bothered with her little brother because she's so in the mode of getting ready for college and her friends and her
it's
boyfriend.
that transition time, isn't it?
It's a tough transition time. You're still sort of a child, now you're adult. But I look at that and I'm like, I know she loves her brother.
Yes.
And it'll come back. She'll look at him like that again. Look, he still looks at her like that, of course, because she's big sister, but she'll look at him like that again. So these portraits, Andrew, they tell the stories of our lives. And if they're not up on this, if they're not in your home for you to look at, you miss that.
Yeah. A lot of people do miss out on that. They don't. And it's a bit different, I suppose, putting your children up. But when we talk about families and putting yourself up, that vanity thing that people go, why would I want me on the wall? It's a very strange thing, but there's a lot of power in that as well, isn't there?
There is
For
a lot of
everybody.
power in that. And I have pictures of me with my kids. I don't know if I have any of me alone.
Janine.
I know, right? Andrew's like, let me fly over and do that for you. I have me and Tim. I have me and my kids. I have in the studio. I have me alone. I don't have at my house. I don't think I have me alone. I had done a boudoir session, but we ended, like, James was 6 months at the time when I had done this.
Right.
And so he did some of the session with me. And those are the ones I ended up picking to put up on my wall. They weren't like, let me rephrase that. I wasn't doing sexy pictures with my 6-month-old, but at the end of the session on the big white bed, like, I put like a sparkly shirt on, and he was sitting there, and like, he was wrapped up in the white sheets with me. And we were cuddling and snuggling, and giggling, and I was tickling him and he was laughing at me. And it was so sweet and so serene because it was all wrapped up in white except for my sparkly shirt and his matching little outfit. And those are some of my favorite portraits of me and him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the bedtime situation and that type of thing with children, with parents, over the years I've done them where they're in the onesies and they're all together and it's all as if they're all in bed, that, and it looks lovely because it's that cozy time that a
That
lot of
cozy time.
that people
And
relate with.
yeah, every parent does bedtime with their kids. You read stories to your kids. It's a very, we try and recreate it. We don't have a bed in the studio, but a lot of times when parents come in, we have them, the photographs we take of them are them reading stories to their kids. Because I mean, for how many years? 6 years of your kid's life, you're reading them bedtime stories.
Yeah, yeah. So moving on from doing that and doing, you've actually gone into obviously mentoring and other areas and things and the marketing side, which you help hundreds of other photographers all over the world now. Where is your goal for your next 5-10 year goal? What have you, because I know you'll have one. What's your plan? What would you like out of this journey in photography for yourself?
Did you ever watch Pinky and the Brain where he's like, I'm going to take over the world? I know, I jest, but every time someone says what's your goal, I always think of Pinky and the Brain as he does that little line. But so it's interesting. Technology, Andrew, is changing so fast. And like it's really hard. Like my tech brain side is like on overdrive. Like what my 5-year plan was last year, it's like totally changing.
Yeah.
It's totally changing. And so I actually don't know if I can give you an honest answer because I'm in the process of changing it. It's interesting when you hit 50. So I'm turning 50. 5 to 10 years now takes you to 60, Andrew.
I'm there in 5 years. Yes, I know. It's yes.
Different than when you're 30 and you're going to be 40. When you're 50 and you're going to be 60 and you're barreling down Social Security, it's like, wow, that's a bit different. And I completely feel like everything in those 10 years is going to change. Like they're saying now, like cell phones won't even exist.
Yes.
Like, Andrew, my first job was for a cell phone company, and now they're saying in 5 years cell phones won't exist.
They probably won't.
What?
It's yes. It's evolving so fast, and it's fun. For anybody that's you like me, technically love the geeky side of things and embrace the technology. It's a lot of fun. Do you worry? Some people worry about what it'll do to photography. Do you worry at all?
I'll do photography because I think that no matter what, if you provide an experience, I think people are going to crave human contact even more soon. I think parents are going to crave having something real of their children even more, and they're going to look for shared experiences. Now, do I think that if people solely focus on the finished print, yes, I think they might be in trouble because you can upload a photo of your child and say, make me something, as the technology can't recreate an experience for somebody.
No.
Even more so
give
now,
you a virtual one, but it's not going to give you that real one, is it?
Right. It's not going to give you that real one. Like, yeah, you can go into AI and say, give me a photo of my child at the Magic Kingdom. Okay. But your kid didn't get to experience going to the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's the same idea. Could somebody get a photo of their kid smashing a birthday cake done in AI? Yeah. But did you actually get to experience that with your child
and laugh and have the fun and have to wipe the cake off yourself
and cake off yourself, all the and have the sibling join in and feed cake to their little brother. These unexpected moments that happen when you create a situation and let it happen. And it's those unexpected things that come up during a photography experience that I don't think technology could ever replace. And I think that people will crave it even more. So am I worried that photography, as we do it, you and me, Andrew, where we create these experiences and spaces for people to come together and experience life, I don't think that'll go away. I think how we do it will change. I think the technology that we have to create things faster, create art differently, create the finished piece differently. I think that might change, and our tools are going to change. But it's sort of like I had this conversation with somebody else just the other day. Like when Ansel Adams totally changed the way photography was done in the darkroom, and
Hmm.
everyone was like, "Oh no, it's not a photograph anymore. You've doctored the negatives, you know." And people were like all bent out of shape. And then when Photoshop came out, people were all bent out of shape again. You know, like now they're the same way, like and I'm like, no, it's just another tool to create. Like because for me, the photo is just an end product of the experience that we're creating for people.
Yeah, I think we're going to be. I think instead of a photography studio, the real thing in the future is a an image experience
Yeah,
place, isn't
yeah.
it? It's a
It's a
it's
place to
an
go have an experience.
experience, yeah, and create or a memory experience place because we're creating memories, and you've got them to live with you forever in a visual form. It's a different thing, isn't it?
It is
But
a
we're
different
still
thing.
using the medium of photography, and however it is. I think it'll last. I can't see it going anywhere. I'm not worried about it at
I'm
all.
not worried about it at all. I'm excited about the new tools.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
excited about how fast we can create things. And this is where my mind is going. This is why I'm not really like sure for 5 or 10 years what my goal is yet now, because I'm kind of changing it all.
yeah.
Honestly, right now
It-
it's like all kinds of, I'm like, man, like I could create this, I could help photographers do this. Like for me, I'm still in this mix of what I want to help other photographers do, and what I want to still do in my studio, and build the studio here and help other photographers too. So it's it's exciting. I find this time to be very exciting. I find the technology and the tools that we have, again, because I'm a kind of a geek. And I find myself now back in the programming stages of things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I never thought I'd be back here again, you know. And so it's interesting. It's come full circle. So for those of us who did photography that came from a techie side, we're loving life right now. it's, it's very interesting and intriguing, and I'm excited about the future, and I'm excited that technology is getting to a point, honestly. And even if you're a photographer's photographer, you should be excited that the stuff that you didn't like to do, you can now do faster and use AI to help you.
yeah, yeah. To enabling the client experience to be smoother is
Yeah.
one key thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And all sorts of different things. Yet other people that I've talked to, talked to Paolo a week or so ago, and he's gone back to film, and he loves
Yeah.
that film thing, which is absolutely fab. And that's what he wants to do, and that's brilliant. And I think that's where we're living in a world now where whatever you want to do, there's no reason why you can't.
No.
It's just there's so many different ways of getting to an end goal
Yep.
of whatever you want to do. It
And you're right, because what used to take a staff that most of us didn't have the budget to have,
Yeah,
right? Like none of us as a small business did we have the ability to hire someone to do social media, to hire someone to do this, to hire like all the different things that a larger company would have. Now we can automate so much of that, and we're already doing that, right? Like so we already automate a lot of our communications. We can write communications much faster now. We can automate the process, so every single client gets to go through an experience like it's Disney without having to have the staff of
but
Disney.
yeah, yeah. It
When I first really started like wanting to Disney-fy the studio, I like doing experiences as a consumer. So like I like to have photos taken of myself or my kids by another photographer, so that way I can experience it and learn
okay. Yeah, yeah.
and do all those different things. So not always being the one just to take them. So as a Floridian, we often just go to Disney for the day,
Hmm.
right? It's easy. It's a 45-minute drive. Why spend money on a hotel and book a whole thing when you can drive there and drive home?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
But when my kids were little, I'm like, you know what? I want to do Disney like everybody else does Disney. People spend their entire life savings to fly to Florida and spend 2 weeks at Disney and do the resorts and all of the things. And so I didn't do it for that long because I wasn't that on board with my idea, but I did want to book a Disney vacation because I wanted to see what booking a Disney vacation actually was like. And I was
Right.
blown away, Andrew. I was blown away. As someone who just had done day trip Disney her whole life because I live here, when I booked that Disney vacation and like a week later, I got this packet in the mail with a map of Disney with my name on it. It's like the Janine McLeod and her family's vacation. And all the questions I answered in my survey, they knew the age of my kids. And so it was Miss Erin and Master James. They put little stickers on different points in the Disney map that were age appropriate for what my kids would enjoy based upon the survey I filled out. They gave me a sample idea, like what rides I should ride when. I mean, it was this whole custom packet.
So
And I
how
was
much
like,
is that? How much of that have you got in your studio now
yeah,
for your clients?
maybe quite a bit. Maybe quite a bit, Andrew. And that's like that I've implemented now for quite a while in the studio, but now, and I used to have an assistant who put all this stuff together, and who would work with me to write it. Now, when she left from college to go, I didn't have to replace her.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I would never have let her go, but she left after graduating from college, and I didn't have to replace her because now Betsy and I were able to, and with ChatGPT and other tools, we're able to create these packets so much faster that we don't need to have that overhead. And so, yeah, no, so much of the Disney experience, because I went in that experience myself, I have brought to the studio.
And that's important, really, isn't it? To in everything that we do, in what all the technology that's coming forward, is to take those blinkers off and see the options. So many people just go and look at the negative. Oh heck, rather than take the blinkers off and say, what are the opportunities?
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the biggest things, isn't it? Looking for the opportunities all the time. What can I help? How can that improve? What can we do that's going to make a difference? And so there's so many options out there now, which is fab. So, what's your greatest take? So you started your studio, what, 2005, 6, something like that, was it?
2007.
2007. So what's been, apart from the taking your own children's photographs, what's been the greatest memory that if something hits you in the mind straight away that you can remember, that's from doing the job, that makes you smile straight away?
Honestly, it is the kids that are older when they come in for their sessions and make fun little jokes. Like, I'm not the tallest person in the world, Andrew. Earlier this year, one of the kids I have photographed since he was a baby came in. He was 13. They were coming in for an updated family portrait, and he's like, Miss Janine, when'd you get so short? I'm like, I didn't get shorter. You just grew. Like for me, like I love that these kids come into the studio, and every time they get older and they hit that puberty mark, and then they come back, and it's like this little tiny adult is here that I had photographed when they were little babies sitting in little tubs. It warms my heart and just brings me joy. And I would say like that those continuation of moments is what I love, and it just brings me joy in what I do, and it's why I continue to want to build those relationships with future clients, right? Because I love that. I think it's funny, and like I've often joked about making certificates for when kids get taller than me, like, hey, you outgrew Miss Janine, big accomplishment. And so it's just fun. I love, like I said, it's the life. I enjoy going through life with all of you guys too. Like, we're on 5 years as difference makers, and like we've seen each other, like members that have been in it since the beginning. Man, a lot of life changes for everybody, and we get to do that together, and it's such an honor and a joy in life for me. Like Claire has become one of my closest friends, and I look forward to when she comes to Disney every year, right? And we get to spend time together, and I look forward to when we have our get-together so we can all hang out in person and not just see each other online. I just like going through life with people. I love it.
Communication, that not stuck behind a computer, but the actual physical communication.
Yeah. And
yeah.
hugs.
Yeah. Well, thank you very, very much for joining me and
You're welcome.
telling
Thanks
us
for having
a
me.
little bit about your story. There's a lot more to come from you, so I'm going to get you back at some point in time because there's a lot more, and there's a lot more we can delve into, I'm sure. But yeah, I know you're very busy, and you've probably
That's
got
okay.
clients waiting for you now, I would imagine, have you?
I got 10 more minutes. We're okay.
10 more
We're good.
minutes, right.
10 more minutes. I do run a tight ship around here, Andrew. We squeeze a lot in a day.
Yeah, fab. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time. And go and enjoy those 10 extra minutes before your next client comes in. Get a
Get
coffee
some
or something
water,
like
right?
that.
Yeah. Got to tidy things up. But yeah, no, thank you for having me. I really appreciate coming on your podcast. It's been a lot of fun.
Yep. Cheers. Thanks, Janine.
Bye.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, if you could just do me one favour, and that would be to like and subscribe. And I'll do my best to make sure Behind the Lens finds the best professional photographers from all over the world so we can enjoy their life stories. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.